Hello and welcome to the video. This is a before you buy comparison special, and as you can see in front of us we have a pair of AMT Buick Wildcats. On my left we have the 1965 Buick Wildcat. That is an original annual release from 1965. And on our right we have a 1966 Buick Wildcat. Although this is a 2020s reboxing or repop, that is the 66 annual box art, so it'll be a great stand-in there. As well as inside the box, I do believe everything is there except for one part, and there's an addition of one part, and we'll obviously get into that as we go. Again, speaking of annuals, for those that don't know, the model manufacturers were trying to keep pace with the one-to-one cars in Detroit releasing their new model year on the shelves the same time that the other ones were hitting the showrooms. So a lot of times there was parts carryovers, bigger or minor changes as we went, and as they were trying to keep pace, a lot of times they were just modifying tooling. So a lot of times we would lose the earlier years, and then just kind of at the end of the body styling run, that is the kit that gets left over for us to see in the reboxing or repops. And before we get into looking at the parts, let's take a look at the boxes themselves. The 65 box has seen better days. I do not have a 66 annual, but I can grab some photos off the internet as we talk about them. We'll start off with part numbers. The 65 annual is 6525. The 66 annual getting a number of 6526. And the 66 2020 release over here is 1175. And jumping back to the 65, this one is a 3-in-1 customizing kit, having a stock, custom, and drag option. Also stating it is styled by the Alexander brothers. Very common of the 60s for the one-to-one customizers to join in with the modeling companies as far as creating customizations or just adding their names to the box to sell. Names such as the Alexander brothers, George Barris or Barris Customs, Gene Winfield, Bill Cushenberry, Ed Roth, and others. Although the 65 came out as a 3-in-1 customizing kit, the 66 annual has no call out of a 3-in-1 or 2-in-1 style kit, although it does have illustrations of both stock and customs around the box art. So that's kind of an interesting note, as well as it is being claimed that it was styled by George Barris or Barris Customs again. And we will see if there is or was any changes done in those customizing options. And to the current kit, we get that 3-in-1 name back, but they are saying it is a stock, custom, or show. So we kind of have a stock or double custom, multi-custom options on the inside. No mentioning of any customizers on the box, just some special features. And again, that retro original annual release box art. And now with the interesting points of the box out of the way, we can get into the parts themselves. And what are we going to look for in this comparison? Again, we kind of mentioned the annual changes, the customizing changes. So we'll see how much or how little was done in the changes, as well as you can see over here, I do have that annual kit, but it was previously built at one point, a little rough around the edges. Again, kind of a glue bomb, if you will. So another thing we are going to look for is if there is any restoration value from the 66 to help us restore this 65. I do have most parts here for the 65. I am short a few pieces, such as the custom seats, custom hood, a custom front and rear set, some custom hood parts, heads, and the instructions. But I can fill in all of those blanks via photos or just talking about them in the 66 parts. Hopefully this doesn't get too confusing, as we are going to be comparing the 65 and 66 annuals, but we're also going to be kind of comparing the 66 annual to the 66 repops. So we'll kind of check out what the 66 repop has included. Hopefully that is the best way to go about this, but we will take a look at the frames here first. And as you can see, starting at the bottom, the annuals having kind of that scallop design that follows the back end of the car, where the repop has just a flat, squared off end plate. but otherwise a lot of the tooling is the same until we get further up. As you can see here on the Annuals, they have that multi-piece or two-piece drive shaft, where later on it was modified to look like a singular drive shaft. Again, both Annuals having this chassis, where the Repop at some point got modified to this variant. And then as we move up, kind of one last change that I notice on the Annuals, they kind of have a scoop or notch out top of the fenders where it had been filled in at some point in those fender wells. Look at the top side. It's kind of a curious design in the Annuals, but otherwise mainly the same tooling, so it'll be a nice spotter's guide for you guys out there if you're looking at some old built-ups. If it kind of has this chassis or this chassis, it's not going to be a true Annual, maybe a restoration at some point. But there's kind of our first comparison with the new Repop. The next change that is different between the Annuals and the Repop is the glass. These main parts are the same for all three versions, but at some point we lost the side glass after the Annuals. I'm not sure when, if it was right away on the first Repop or later on in the line, but this current issue does not have the side windows, where both of the Annuals did come with a side window set. And kind of last on the Repop series, we get this wheel option, which is just kind of a deep wire spoke. There is 4 of those, and these are only seen in the Repops, and I think it was from the first run of Repops through the current have all this version of wheel. And now we can finally get into the kind of nitty-gritty of this between the 65s and the 66 changes, kind of the yearly or annual changes that we see. And spoiler alert, there will be some same parts in the crossover, and then we'll kind of finish it up with some more of the customizing changes. So let's take a look at the bodies. There will be an obvious difference between the parts as we go. The new kit having a bright white plastic, the vintage parts having that classic creamy white look. But let's start off here on the sides. And as you can see there on the fender trim, that was kind of a year change there, pretty noticeable. And then coming down this side, the 66 getting kind of a multi-bead trim, where the 65 just kind of had a single bead there. But otherwise the door handles, maybe a little bit more accented body line here on the 65. We'll run around the back. We will see some changes. We can take a look at the actual dimensional changes there, a little deeper scallop in the 65 versus the 66. And then looking at the rear bumpers, we're having dated bumpers. 65 having the kind of bullet Buick right in the center, where the 66 has that kind of cleaned up, and the 65 having reverse lights next to the license plate frame, as well as some subtle kind of styling cues there in the bumper. Both of them having Wildcat script on the trunk in different kind of locations, because there is a slight body line change. Then flipping it around to the front, we will see some changes in the 65, kind of having that bullet Buick right in the center. As we can see on the 65, we have a Buick on the top of the grille, where the Buick ends up on the hood in 66, as well as in replace of that center bullet, the 66 actually comes with a hood ornament. Kind of take a quick look at it there in the corner that gets added to the nose of that. And then you can see kind of the last major change there is our parking lights going from round to rectangular. So they are fairly similar, but clearly different model years. And if you take a look at the kind of body lines on the sides of the hood, we're kind of running straight back here in 65, and then getting a tapered kind of treatment there on the 66. let me kind of clear the desk, get rid of the focus, as we're going to start looking at some smaller parts and reposition the camera. I'll be right back. And now we can get into some of the smaller parts. I guess the tub is still pretty large here, but this is the 65 tub. Again, this was previously built and kind of glue bombed, so we are crossing our fingers for some restoration parts. You can see the dash and do this here. Here is our 66 tub, and as you can see, it is the same tooling, same trim panels, same seats, all the same pattern. Here are our seats, front seats being the same, and here's the custom set, and that would be the same from the 65. So you have all of your interior restoration, including the dash still being the same. So everything inside the car is kind of a 100% conversion there from 65 to 66. So again, anybody needing to do restorations like myself, here is a great source with the 66 kit. And continuing along with the same, our firewalls are the same across years. Again, just doing what you can to beat the new model year. Pretty minor details as far as any kid is concerned when building. And then of course our entire engine, tree, and parts are 100% converted over from year to year. Here is my 65 that was previously built up, and it was even built up without the heads. So again, some restoration pieces here that will fit right in, and most will be none the wiser. Some more carry over, just good old-fashioned brakes or the backing pads. And speaking of brakes, the Buick finned brakes are carried over. This isn't necessarily carryover, this is just kind of a replacement of the screws into the newer kits. And here is our custom steering wheel spokes, and if you've seen in the glass, it gets that kind of clear acrylic ring on those wheels for the customs. And we'll pull this stuff out of the way and grab our chrome parts. I kind of snipped away the tree down to the same parts that are from kit to kit, other than again that hood ornament. But all three versions get the fuel injection. We got a set of dual carbs, kind of a set of headers there. Our side exhaust, kind of that louvered custom look. They all get the chrome fin valve covers. They all get the kind of stock wheel set, a very classic common Magnum 500 style wheel of the day. We got some shifters, or maybe that's an antenna there. There is the shifter. The Annuals did not have the Hearst script going up the side, but it is the exact same shifter. This is an alternator piece there, and that is kind of the same across the chrome platform. And now we're really starting to roll into the differences between the kits. Kind of staying with the chrome, the 65 getting a beautiful set of chrome reverse wheels, kind of that front and rear with the front dust caps. Very nice option for either custom or drag in the 65 kit. And then those get removed and replaced in 66 for this set of kind of custom wheel. Just kind of a smooth dish wheel with kind of a frosted texture or look. Just kind of a nice clean wheel. So both versions, or both Annuals, getting two sets of wheels, a stock and custom, but both getting a different variety. And some exterior changes. We can do a custom hood. Again, I said I was missing a custom hood, and this is going to be one of them. This is the 66 version, kind of a big wide mouth. It does have some kind of ribbing or grating across the front. There we get it. Where the 65 was kind of very similar, but it was almost like a reverse cut. I will make sure to get a picture up in there so you can see those changes. So 65 having 2 hoods, where 66 actually ended up with 3 hoods. And here is the third hood. Very cool. This would fit very well with the drag option, with the fuel injection and the vents. As far as I can tell, this was only optioned into 66. I've not seen a 65 kit with this one. If you know any different on any of this information, please let me know in the comments, and I'll make sure to pin it or add a pinned comment with any kind of updates or changes that we find. And another one of those parts that I was kind of missing from my 65 kit is a custom tail panel. Just kind of a big smooth panel with some lower tail lights, kind of designated as the drag version on the box art. Make sure to get some pictures up here. And then its 66 counterpart change is this one here. Just kind of another smooth pan, but it has a kind of a mesh grill pattern going across it. And that kind of matches with this front end, which I do believe both 65 and 66 get. Just kind of a big recessed grill, hidden headlight look. Very similar to like a 69 Impala or 70 Charger. Just kind of that big open meshed grill. Again, you can kind of see that grill pattern. Same for the front and rear. But again, I do believe that is from both kits. There might have been a different pattern inside for 65. I'm not sure. But to go along with these front ends on the chrome tree, there are additional inserts to kind of change it up. If you would like a grill or a chrome pattern. 65 getting just a nice clean vertical look. And if we take a look at 66s, we get kind of a much more broken up mesh pattern, kind of multi-rib. Let me throw them both up there next to each other. There you can see again the changes from year to year. I guess Alexander Brothers to Barris Customs. And continuing on with our custom kind of front ends, here is one from the 65. These are taped together so that you can kind of see and keep the colored plastic with the different parts. But you can just see a nice clean front end, and this is the kind of that box art front end that you get. And its 66 counterpart is very similar. I just kind of get the addition of those vertical uprights. Very interesting. I don't know if this is what they can do to change customizers or allow different customizers to kind of put their name or their customizing stamp on it, but that is a minor change, but actually makes for a different statement on that front end. And an interesting note to go along with these parts are these two little guys here. If you guys watched my box opening on the 66 kit, I think I called them exhaust tips as I wasn't sure what they were. If you look at them, they do kind of have a left and right look to them, as the 66 or the modern 66 instructions do not mention these. But I did notice in the 65 instructions it shows one of these going on the hood, so I thought that was kind of curious. But then when I was getting ready to do this video, I was kind of checking out the hood, and there you can see they're kind of just a runner off of those headlight buckets. So if you guys have these 66 kits and are using these other front ends, kind of those box art front ends, they do kind of attach to the hood and meet up with those headlights. So I thought that was kind of an interesting thing that they kind of left out of the 66 kits, but creates a cool little feature. Just a little tidbit for you guys if you want to use all your parts in your kits. And back to 65, this is kind of its counterpart tail piece to go along with that front end. Just kind of that very pointed, clean out look. But as we've seen that the body change, kind of that big cutout changes between 65 and 66. So we do have to kind of change that whole panel. And this is what they derived with. Really neat panel. Kind of matches their front end a little bit. Kind of them vertical lines. Just a very nice pairing there. And then of course as you seen it go flying across there, there's some kind of optional or accessory bumperettes that come in the kit to kind of tie in. The 66 kit having this featured set of reds to go with all their reds. These are kind of the stock ones. Those are that last set that we've seen, and then the set before right there. The 65, I kind of have this little thing. I might set them all up for us to look at. These kind of stanchions get inserted with those, and those are supposed to mount kind of back here on the rear panel if you'd like a taillight back there. Very cool looking taillights. These reds look very similar to like a DeSoto style taillight. Here's the reds that go on those corner pieces for my missing custom part. So there is a few sets of reds. Here is our stock split red that goes in our bumper. And then kind of a last little piece off of our chrome is the, get this focus here. Focus. That is the Alexander Brothers plate you get, and obviously that got removed with the George Barris edition. So that will wrap it up for a comparison of the Buick Wildcats from AMT, the 65 annual and the 66 annual and Repop. Hopefully that was informative or entertaining for you. The big takeaway being is anything behind the sheet metal, the engine, the firewall, into the interior is all the same between these kits. Minor change there between the annual chassis moving into the Repop chassis. And then, of course, all of our exterior kind of gets some facelift, some minor, some major, depending on the part we are looking at. So again, with that, if you made it this far, thanks for watching.